All right, it's time for another 5 minutes. The Iceman, Mike Perkins, is with us again, our first two-time participant in the show. Of course, with news of the NHL coming back, I made you do this, so you don't get to pick the topic today. Are you okay with that?
I am absolutely fine with that. Gary Bettman came out yesterday and had a lot of great news for us, so
Yep.
obviously very exciting for us to get a chance to talk about that.
All right, well, before we put time on the clock, let's go ahead. This episode is going to be a little bit longer because we want to set up what's going to happen. We know 24 teams are going to continue their season straight into the playoffs. We're going to start with a best-of-5 series between 8 teams in each conference. And
So
then
total 16 teams, yep.
Yep, exactly. They will move on and play the top 4 seeds from each conference, and which would basically be the start of the regular playoff that we're used to. We don't know how long those series are going to be quite yet, those quote-unquote first and second round series, but those play-in series are going to be a best-of-5 as well.
Well, we do know that the conference final and the Stanley Cup final will be best-of-7.
Yes.
We do know that for sure.
That much we do know. Okay, so that hopefully will get everybody up to speed a little bit. So let's put 5 minutes on the clock, and we're going to get your thoughts, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. So here we go. We know what the format is, Iceman. You tell me, is this good for the NHL?
Well, I think this is good for hockey in general. I think this is good for the public. I think it's good for people in the U.S., people in Canada, people across the world that are excited about the game of hockey, and especially NHL hockey. So the opportunity to get any type of NHL action back is exciting for anybody. I mean, it's not the perfect solution, and as Gary Bettman said yesterday, there is no perfect solution in a situation like this. So if you're looking for a perfect solution, you're not going to find it here. But the good news for all of us is, and I'm number one on the list here, is we're going to get hockey back, and it's going to be exciting and a little bit different format in the playoffs, like we just talked about. 16 teams are going to get in a preliminary round, while the top 4 teams in each conference, total 8 teams, will play a mini tournament, mini round robin to kind of get themselves up to speed and in game shape for the coming final 16 teams that will play for the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, and we don't know who's going to play who after that first round is over because, like you said, that little mini round robin is going to determine the seeds 1 through 4 once they're all done playing their what I assume would be 3 games each.
And I don't think we've determined whether this is going to be bracketed or it's going to be reseeded after each round. So I think some of that stuff will be TBD. The interesting part of all this, Eric, is that the NHL, Gary Bettman and his people, and the NHLPA and actual players, Connor McDavid, John Tavares, James Van Riemsdyk, and a few others, I think I'm missing a couple other guys, were collaborative in this effort to try to put together a best solution for everybody. Now, I know there's probably a couple of quirks in here that there's going to be some people that aren't going to like it. Probably some of the top teams that won't like how this all comes down. But at the end of the day, we are going to have hockey, and that's exciting for hockey fans across the world.
And currently, look where we stand. The 2 top teams in each conference going in are the 2 teams who played for the Cup last year in Boston and St. Louis. When we look at the teams individually, and you said this is great for the public, there's an entire state that may not love it because our 3 teams here in California are the only 3 Western Conference teams that will not compete in this postseason tournament. Of course, the Sharks, Kings, and Ducks all have been officially eliminated. Over in the Eastern Conference, they have eliminated Detroit, New Jersey, Ottawa, and Buffalo. So those 7 teams will go straight into the draft lottery, and then the 8 losers of those first-round playoff series will fall into the draft lottery as well. More on that will come a little bit later. But like you said, the most important part is we're going to see games here, and they're going to take place in 2 hub cities. And those hub cities list has been narrowed down to, I think it's 10 cities. They're going to
10, 12 cities, which is pretty interesting, right? Bummer for us here in California. Unfortunately, our 3 teams are not going to be a part of what's going to happen moving forward. But the interesting part is amongst those city names was Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So I think they recognize that here in California, we've done a very good job with our response to COVID-19. And moving forward, we do have the facilities and, of course, the city of Los Angeles that has so many different options and opportunities when it comes to hotels and transportation and, of course, the Staples Center. I know it doesn't sound great for us here as Ducks fans, but bringing hockey back to the state of California in that capacity would be very exciting if that did happen. Some other cities mentioned: Vancouver, Las Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, Edmonton, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Those cities were all part of those 10 to 12 communities that were vying for, or at least mentioned in an opportunity to be two of the hub cities.
What I'm interested to find out is, you know how the grand scope of the U.S. is. Anaheim isn't usually always mentioned by itself. I wonder if Anaheim could potentially be a part of that Los Angeles as far as sites are concerned, if they do select. Who knows? We've got about 30 seconds left. Give me your thoughts on that real quick before we sign off.
Well, of course, we would love to see that happen here in our area, but I do think it's going to have to be someplace that has great transportation availability in and out flight wise. It's going to have great ground transportation. It's going to have a large amount of hotels that are going to be able to take on all those teams that come in to be a part of this here. So I think a lot of that has to come into play, and it's going to have to be communities that are going to be on board with making that happen. And of course, from a governmental level as well, that would want to have stuff like this going on in their state and in their communities.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing's for sure. We know hockey is right around the corner. We're going to get back to it, and that is 5 minutes. Mike Perkins, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you doing this, even though I made you. And maybe we'll do a part 3 to talk about who can win the cup.
Well, I'm ready to come back on again, so let's do another one real quick because we got more stuff to talk about.
We'll schedule it. Thanks again.
Thank you, Eric.